Peace and love, family. This is Brother Caleb coming back at you again with another video. I'm going to entitle today's lesson, The Prophetic Clock, the 20th Century, the Final Hour. We're going to be coming out of the book of Ezekiel chapter 36. And we're going to be going over a couple of the prophecies throughout the scriptures. But let us start with 36, verse 1. And it reads, Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yah. Thus saith Yah Elohim, because the enemy hath said against you, Aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. Therefore prophesy and say, Thus saith Yah Elohim, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen. And ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are the infamy of the people. So the Most High is allowing us to understand that in this verse, the land of Israel has become a possession to the residue of the heathen, to a portion of the heathen. A people who are not the people are on the land, and they have possession of the land. And it has become a desolate land, a land of war, a land of violence. And it is taken up in the lips of the people around the world as an infamy, no longer being the Holy Land, but being a place of violence and death and war. It is a slander among the nations. It is a disgrace among the nations. So the Most High is telling the prophet to prophesy to the land concerning these things. Verse 4, Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yah Elohim. Thus saith Yah Elohim to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate waste and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and a diversion to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Became a diversion, a scoffing, a mocking, a shameful thing to the residue of the heathen, to the rest of the heathen that are round about. Verse 5, Therefore thus saith Yah Elohim, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. So there are two people that the Most High, two groups of people that the Most High is speaking against in this chapter. To the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. Against all the children of Esau, the Edomites, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey, cast it out for a spoil, for their gain. The Most High said in verse 6, Prophesy therefore concerning the land of Israel, and say unto the mountains, and to the hills, to the rivers, and to the valleys, Thus saith Yah Elohim, Behold, I have spoken in the fire of my jealousy and in my fury, because ye have borne the shame of the heathen. So this prophecy, this message was for the land of Israel, and the Most High says that he is speaking in the fire of his jealousy and in his fury, because the land of Israel is bearing the shame of the heathen, bearing the shame of a people who are not the people, who have turned his land into a disgrace. Verse 7, Therefore thus saith Yah Elohim, I have lifted up my hand, surely the heathen that are about you, they shall bear their shame. So the heathen that are dwelling in the land, the heathen that are round about the land, they shall bear their shame. Something happened in the early 20th century around 1917, what is known as the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was a public statement issued by the British government in 1917 during the First World War, announcing support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. So this declaration was the beginning attempt of the heathen to possess the land. Verse 8, "But ye mountains of Israel, ye shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people of Israel, for they are at hand and soon to come." So the prophecy is telling us, indicating that there is a people in the land who are not supposed to be there, who are known as the residue of the heathen, the portion of the heathen who teamed up with the Idumeans, the house of Esau, the Edomites, to divide the Most High's land, cast it out and make it a spoil. The Most High says that the heathen that live in the land, the children of Japheth that dwell in the land, calling themselves chosen people, they shall bear their shame. But the mountains of Israel shall shoot forth branches, and it shall yield fruit to the true people who are at hand, who are soon to come. Let us understand this. Let us consider these things. When you understand the history of how the state of Israel was created, then you understand that this prophecy in Ezekiel is concerning this act, this declaration. We also have the Emirate of Transjordan. The Emirate of Transjordan, the establishment of the Emirate of Transjordan refers to the government that was set up in Transjordan on April 1921. The Emirate of Transjordan, officially known as the Emirate of Transjordan, was a British protectorate, meaning they were protected by the British armies. Established on the 11th of April 1921, which remained as such until achieving formal independence in 1946. So we see that the Arabic nations, specifically the Hashemite kingdom, was in confederate made league with Great Britain to divide the land of Israel, Jordan, amongst themselves. Then we have the Treaty of Alliance. The Treaty of London was signed between the United Kingdom and the Emirate of Transjordan on the 22nd of March 1946 and came into force on the 17th of June 1946. The treaty concerned the sovereignty and independence of the Arab state of Transjordan, officially known as Transjordan, which would now be known as the Hashemite Kingdom of Transjordan, with Emir Abdullah I as its king. So they were in league together. the residue of the heathen being Great Britain, Ireland. They were in league with the Hashemite kingdom, which the scriptures is telling us these are the Idumeans, the house of Esau, and divided the Most High's land. And now there is no peace in the Middle East, but it is a land that destroys the lives of its citizens, of people who have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years and thousands of years. Some of our people is still in the land. Some of our people are still being oppressed under the hand of that government. Then we have the United Nations partition plan for Palestine, which was the final seal in the plot to take over the land and the scheme to place themselves as the chosen people of the Most High Yah. The United Nations partition plan for Palestine. The UN partition plan for Palestine was a proposal by the United Nations that recommended a partition, parting of the land, of mandatory Palestine into independent Arab and Jewish states, which these so-called Jews are not Jews, but they are of the residue of the heathen. They are of the children of Japheth, who it says in scriptures that Yah would deceive Japheth and he would dwell in the tents of Shem. These are those heathens who are now referring to themselves as Jewish. So the partition plan was a proposal and a plan created that would give independence to Arab and Jewish states, and that they would divide the territory amongst the two. This is what the Most High is speaking of in Ezekiel chapter 36. This was the beginning of the final hour. The beginning of the 20th century was the final hour. And as the book of Daniel said, and knowledge shall be increased in the latter days. Knowledge was increased from now until then. From the 20th century until now, we have increased. So we know in the year 2022, we are no longer talking about a final hour, but we are talking about the final seconds. We are in the final seconds before the liberation, before the salvation, before the vindication and the vengeance of Yah. Let us continue. Ezekiel chapter 37, the valley of dry bones. Verse 1, and it reads, "The hand of Yah was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of Yah, and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, they were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yah Elohim, thou knowest. And he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yah. Thus saith Yah Elohim unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live. And ye shall know that I am Yah. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind. Prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith Yah Elohim, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Verse 11. Then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say our bones are dry, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith Yah Elohim, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. And ye shall know that I am Yah, when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, and shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live. I shall place you in your own land. Then ye shall know that I, Yah, have spoken it and performed it, saith Yah. So the Most High is telling the prophet Ezekiel in the 37th chapter that these dry bones represent the whole house of Israel. And during this time, final hour, that he will begin to revive these dry bones. He will begin to put flesh upon these dry bones and put breath back into these dry bones and life into them. During the 20th century, children of Israel have struggled, have fought oppression, have risen above the occasion, despite the circumstances, despite the oppression, despite the setbacks. The Most High says he will cause the house of Israel to stand as a great army, and that he will cause us to come up out of our graves, cause us to come out of the lands that we were captive in, bring us back into the land of the living, bring us back into the land of Israel. And then we shall know that Yah alone is King. Yah alone is our mighty one. When he opens our graves, and brings us up out of our graves, back into our land. Let's continue to the 38th chapter of Ezekiel, the first verse. And it seems as though the prophetic clock has went forward in this chapter. Now this prophecy is against Gog. Let us read verse 1. And the word of Yah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Say, thus saith Yah Elohim, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thy army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah and of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations. And they shall dwell safely, all of them. It is brought forth out of the nations, brought back by the United Nations, by the League of Nations. This was the partitioning plan of Israel. This is how the state of Israel was created. It was brought forth out of the nations. So the Most High is speaking to Gog and to the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, which many understand this to be Russia and Ukraine. The prince that rules over that territory, many say that it is Vladimir Putin. The Most High is saying that during this time, when the Most High revives the spirit of his children and brings us back into our land, that this is the time that Gog, Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, known as Russia, this is the time that they will come with a great army into the land. And they shall come in after many days with a great army against a land that was brought back from the sword, against a land that was brought back by the nations. Verse 9 says, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, and many people with thee. He shall come with a great army. He shall muster up a great force. Many people with him, many nations, and allied with him. Verse 10, thus saith Yah Elohim, it shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. You go to the people that were delivered out of the nations. You will come up upon the territory of the children that the Most High has delivered. Verse 12, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto God, thus saith Yah Elohim, in that day when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it? In the the day that the children of Israel, the ones who, in verse 36, in chapter 36 of Ezekiel, it said that they are at hand and soon to come. In chapter 37 says that they were being revived and being restored. Now, they dwell safely. And the armies of God and his company come into the land like a storm to take a spoil from these people. Verse 15. And thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army. And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days. And I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O God, before their eyes. Heathen that are in the land. Thus saith Yah Elohim, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old times by my servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days, many years, that I would bring thee against them. And it shall come to pass at the same time, when God shall come against the land of Israel, saith Yah Elohim, that my fury shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. This is what he spoke in Ezekiel chapter 36 concerning the land of Israel, when he told the prophet to prophesy to the mountains. He told him that in the fire of his jealousy was speaking, and that the heathen that dwelt in the land shall bear their shame. So in verse 19, the Most High says that in the fire of his jealousy and in his wrath he has spoken, there shall be a great shaking, there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel on that day when God comes into the land. Verse 20, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of heaven and the beasts of all the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith Yah Elohim. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. Plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, in overflowing rain, and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. They shall know that I am Yah. This battle, army of Gog and those in company with him, will cause the Most High to get fame amongst all the nations, and all the nations shall know that he is the mighty one. All the nations will know that Yah alone is the King of the earth. Let us move along to the prophet Isaiah, the 24th chapter. He confirms what the prophet Ezekiel has spoken. Let us start at the first verse, Isaiah 24, verse 1. Behold, Yah maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. The land shall be utterly empty and utterly spoiled, for Yah has spoken this word. The earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away, the haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore has the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all the merry-hearted do sigh. The mirth of Tabret cease, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp cease. They shall not drink wine with a song, strong drink shall be bitter to them that do drink it. The cities of confusion is broken down, every house is shut up that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets, all joy is darkened, the mirth of the land is gone. In the city is left desolation, and the gates is smitten with destruction. When thus it shall be in the midst of the land among the people, there shall be as a shaking of an olive tree, and as the gleaning grapes when the vintage is gone. They shall lift up their voice, they shall sing for the majesty of Yah, they shall cry aloud from sea. Wherefore glorify ye Yah in the fires, even the name of Yah Elohim of Israel in the isles of the sea. For the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Yea, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitants of the earth. And it shall come to pass that he who flees from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, the foundations of the earth do shake. So we see the Most High showing Isaiah the prophet this same time where he shakes the earth. Foundations of the earth do shake, the windows on high are open, men fall into the pit, men fall into the cracks of the earth. Verse 19, the earth is utterly broken down, the earth is clean dissolved, the earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be moved like a cottage. The transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. This is the day of the Most High, the judgment of the world, punishment of the world, the consequences of all the wickedness that has been done in the world. Verse 21, and it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yah, that Yah shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth. So the Most High shall punish the divine ones who dwell on high, and he shall also punish the kings of the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall be visited. The moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when Yah of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem before his ancients gloriously. This is the time and we are entering into. Great shaking just happened earlier today in Afghanistan, where over 1,000 people were killed. Shall be a greater shaking than that. The moon shall be confounded. The moon shall be put to shame. The sun shall be put to shame. The sun shall be delayed and disappointed. When the Most High shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem. So now we understand that the final hour, certain things that had to take place, and certain things that could be expected. See the dividing of the Most High's land, chapter 36. We see the reviving of the Most High's people, chapter 37 of Ezekiel. Chapter 38, we see the war between the Most High and Gog and Magog and all their companies. The great shaking that would take place at the end of Ezekiel 38 into Isaiah chapter 24, where the judgment of the world has begun. And also the great shaking that will take place. All this is what will take place, what has taken place in the 20th century until present day. So what can we expect? Expect tribulation. We can expect deliverance from captivity. We can expect the Most High to glorify Himself in the sight of the nations. We can expect, as Israel, for His glory to rest upon us. This is confirmed in Isaiah chapter 60. Let us go there. Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1, and it reads, "Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yah is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yah shall arise upon thee, and His glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about, and see, all they gather themselves together. They come to thee, thy sons shall come from far, and thy daughters shall be nursed at thy side. Then thou shalt see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. The multitude of camels shall cover thee, the dromedaries of Midian and Ephah. All they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense. They shall show forth the praises of Yah. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance on my altar, and I will glorify. the house of my glory. Who are these that fly as a cloud and as the doves to their windows? Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of Yah thy Elohim, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. So this time is speaking of a time when the Most High's light begins to shine on his people. It is the day of our liberation. It is the time of our vindication. The Most High says that the true reparation will go forth at this time. The forces of the Gentiles shall be converted unto us. The multitudes of camels, the dromedaries, the gold, the silver, all these things shall come unto us, shall come unto our people when the Most High glorifies us. Talks about the ships of Tarshish, the ships of Spain, that shall be the first to come. Bring our people back to the Most High Yah, because he has glorified us. Verse 10, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their king shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Hallelujah. This is the time that we can expect after we are purged through the fire of tribulation, after the remnant makes it out of the tribulation. This is what can be expected. The forces of the Gentiles will be converted over unto us. The heathen will be judged and purged out of the land. The armies that come against Jerusalem and against the holy people shall be put down, and the Most High shall reign in Mount Zion. This is what it speaks of in Isaiah 66. If we go to the 7th verse, it reads, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. What we are to look for on the prophetic clock now is the travail of Zion. When you see Zion under great tribulation, then she shall bring forth her children, her child, the male child who is scattered all over the nations. These things are happening in sequence. These things are happening not at once, but over time. Now, we are at the final seconds of the clock. We have long been in the final hour. Now we are at the final seconds. The Most High is commanding his people to repent, turn from our wicked ways, believe him and remove the heart of unbelief. Stand up as a great army. Prepare ourselves. The final exodus of our people. Prepare ourselves for the kingdom that is coming. This is Brother Caleb. I pray that Those who have the ears to hear will hear this message, believe this message. Allow this message to cause you to turn from your ways and begin to seek the Most High. And I pray that we can unite, or at least fellowship, in the kingdom of Zion. I bless you in the name of Yah. Shalom.